Matt, I think
Noah,
we are live. I think we are live. I'm pretty sure this is happening. We're gonna check on my phone here, see what's going on. But I'm pretty sure that we have officially kicked off kicked off UXR Conversations season
season
2.
two. Let's do
How
it.
how about that?
It's
Um,
exciting.
I can't believe we're here. It's been way too long. Welcome everyone to season 2 of UXR Conversations. Not even sure how to define this thing. When I started it last year, I think it was April, the pandemic had hit, full-blown pandemic. I was at home with my family, feeling disconnected from the research community, feeling kind of lonely, feeling kind of depressed, feeling many feelings. And I wanted to connect with the research community, and I wanted to share ideas and share conversations with fascinating researchers and research leaders and just have fun. And Matt was kind enough, Matt Gallivan, also known as Director of Product Research at Slack, these days, was delighted to join me because he does that sometimes. He just randomly supports me in the strange things I do and joined me for a conversation where, if I recall correctly, I was sitting in the corner of my bedroom trying to hide the fact that there was a bed next to me with really shitty kind of fold up desk. And oh my lord, it was.
You should see the mess that's all around my monitor right now.
Yes, Matt, but look at where we've come. Look at where we've gotten to. This is
It's been a
exciting.
journey.
It's been a journey, and this conversation, just like all other conversations, will remain on YouTube afterwards. But we are live, and you are very welcome to ask questions and share comments and thoughts, and we'll try to get to everything if we can. But for now, we'll just do our thing. So the theme for this conversation is starting over, primarily because it kind of feels like we're starting a lot of things over this year. The year has just begun. Many changes in our nation, in the research field, in our personal lives, just a lot going on. And so I wanted to talk about some of these kind of starting over notions. But first, I wanted to make a couple of really big announcements that I am very, very excited about. And I know Matt's excited too. You're going to see it on his
Very
face.
excited. I can't wait. Lay it on me.
The big announcement is that we are now hiring at Wealthfront for both a user research intern role and a senior user researcher role. It's been a while since we've hired additional research peeps to Wealthfront. The job postings are live on the Wealthfront careers page, and you are welcome to check it out, and would love for you to apply. The even bigger announcement. Oh, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Before, to totally ruin your momentum, may I just say, and I am getting no kickbacks whatsoever, and I've been accused of being incentivized to say things like this in the past. Wealthfront is an amazing product, and it has added tremendous value to me in my life. And I think it's incredible. And man, talk about an amazing thing to do research on. That would be really fun. And I'm not just saying that.
Thank you, Matt. The second thing, this I'm almost kind of getting emotional about it. There were very few joyful moments for me in 2020. It was not a particularly joyful year. The thing that brings me the most joy in my life is by far my wife and my children, my family. But second to that, what brings me the most joy is all of the mentorship I got to do in 2020, all of the connections with researchers, the conversations I was able to share, the coaching. I completely lost track of how many hours and days I invested in these things, but it was a lot. And I did it all on the evenings and on the weekends, because it really did and still does bring me so much joy. So I decided to, in 2021, expand all of my efforts to do with helping to build up and hopefully improve our amazing UX community and UX research community, share even more, create even more, make even more. You may know that in addition to these YouTube shenanigans, I'm also on the UXR Collective platform, which I highly recommend signing up for a bunch of really amazing content and conferences and mentorship. It's incredible. And today, and this is live, I'm officially launching the UX Quest newsletter. I'm gonna, yay, clapping.
That's amazing.
I am going to put up the website here. uxquest.com is where you can find the newsletter. This newsletter has a free plan whereby I'll be posting a monthly article for free to anyone who subscribed. It also has paid plans, either monthly or annually, for premium content, which I will be sending out weekly on Fridays, just like today. Now, I wanted people to kind of get some idea of the sort of content I'd be publishing. So already at uxquest.com, you will find a month's worth of content, 4 articles on very different topics. In each article, I kind of go on a UX quest to explore a topic. And I also share a couple of things that have inspired me, in addition to job postings and potentially other information and educational materials in the future. This is live. It's available now. I would love for you to consider subscribing. I would love for you to share with your colleagues and friends. It's really exciting to me. I hope that I can contribute even more than I did in 2020 to our amazing community and help anyone out who's interested in learning a little bit more about UX research, UX leadership, management, a bunch of different topics that I know that Matt and I both think about pretty much every single day in our respective workplaces and jobs. So that's the big thing. Check it out. Tell me what you think. I'm always very open to feedback and thoughts and comments and everything you've got. And I know, Matt, I'm going to put you on the spot here, but like, you're going to subscribe, right? Like, you're not going to not subscribe to.
I'm absolutely going to subscribe. Well, I'm going to go with the free plan first and see if you deliver real value. Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, we have.
Am I here?
Wait, Matt, wait. Here we go. Say something.
Hi, am I back?
Yeah, well, it was on me. It wasn't on you.
Okay.
I'm something important. Say something important again.
The important thing is, yes, of course I'm going to subscribe. You bet. I can't wait to dive in and read it. I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
It's fun. I do have some kind of hills I'm dying on there, some debatable ideas. One of the articles is called The Burglar's Mindset, and I'm advocating for people to adopt a burglar's mindset, which is probably problematic, to say the least. But I go into detail in the articles, and it's going to be interesting. Okay.
I need more spicy no-om takes in my life, so I can't wait.
It's pretty spicy. It's pretty spicy. Okay, Matt, let's talk about starting over.
Sure.
Everything's changed. The workplace has changed. Research has changed. Our lives have changed. I don't think that's really up for debate. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, because we don't talk about this enough, is the leadership front and kind of putting your manager hat on, and as the lead of the team at Slack. Is the team changing given all of these workplace changes? Kind of how are you thinking of supporting researchers in 2021 and beyond, given how this year has started and how the previous year ended?
Yeah. I mean, everything about what we do is changing. I think when we spoke in episode 1 of season 1, we had just started the COVID experience. I think it was probably in early April or maybe March that we spoke. So it was really early on, and I remember talking about how I had always been sort of a stick in the mud about going all in on remote research. No turning back from that now. That of course I think is just sort of like a new fundamental reality that I don't see changing if and when we go back to the physical workplace. So the way in which the team works, obviously, like any other research team, has changed in that very fundamental way. We aren't looking at a budget for building out in-house labs, right? Like we're taking all of that money and attention and focusing on how we can automate our qualitative efforts and make them more powerful and spread more easily and shared more easily to more people and more stakeholders. But in terms of supporting the team, it's hard. I'm trying my best. I'm sure every other manager, people manager out there is trying their best as well, to strike that balance between making sure that everyone is staying focused on the most important things, and trying to produce a lot of great research work and insight, but also giving people space to breathe and to process and to acclimate to not only the fact that our physical work environment has changed, but also that the world has been a crazy place for the last 12 months. I don't think it's healthy to isolate conversations about work from that larger reality, right? And I think you just have to try to acknowledge those realities whenever you can.
Have you had the experience of onboarding someone remotely? I think you onboarded remotely. Is that correct?
I did. I onboarded remotely, so I've never worked a day in the physical office at Slack, and I've onboarded a few folks onto the team remotely. And what the one message I've tried to hammer home early and often with those people, and that I will continue to do as we bring new people onto the team, is say, cut yourself some slack, if you'll forgive the phrase. That was unintentional. But really, like, it's hard. It's just very hard to get a sense of place and a sense of where you plug into an organization when you don't have those cues and those micro interactions that you have in the physical workplace. It's a very, very difficult thing to do when you are trying to operate in this nebulous headspace and say, like, okay, this interface on my screen is where I work now. It's just a very weird thing. So the most important thing is to tell people, like, take your time. I am not putting pressure on you to jump right in and produce a ton of stuff right out of the gate, and show yourself some grace. Because none of this stuff is easy for anyone.
We did a couple of things which I was delighted about. One was, so forgive me, Matt, but I think you know this, at Wealthfront, which you love, we don't use Slack.
Shame.
Because of, I think, some security issues. So we use another platform, but it also has, channels and that sort of thing. Yeah. So we created a team, we call it the design shitposting channel.
Nice.
Which is a fun avenue to kind of share funny memes and hilarious tidbits from the internet and blow off some steam and have some fun. And I've found that's been very helpful. And the second thing has been just trying to increase the social aspect of work and team camaraderie by having, additional happy hours and just casual conversations.
We try to do a lot of that stuff too. One other thing that we're doing that has been helpful is, for the first few months of my time at Slack, I would run these team meetings that inevitably turned into me just being a talking head, sharing information out to a whole bunch of other people on video conference. And we said, oh, well, I didn't say, the team, bless their hearts, were very honest with me, saying like, Matt, that's not the best use of our time. Like what we want is a feeling of connection, but we don't want, we're all feeling Zoom fatigue. Can we figure out another format? So now we're doing audio only, and we're kind of doing like a live like interview show, like podcast style show format for our team meetings. It's much less structured, but it's really been a hit, and people are really enjoying the fact that it is less taxing of their attention, but it does provide that feeling of like camaraderie. It's a little bit more lighthearted, so things like that. Like I think, and every team out there, I think, is finding these little ways to tweak what they do and how they work and how they collaborate to make things work. But yeah.
What about methods? I wonder if at Slack, did you used to go kind of physically into customers' offices and kind of observe how they use Slack and how they use other tools? You did, right?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, for as long as I've worked there, it's been all remote because it's all been during COVID. But I remember working at Airbnb and seeing Slack researchers, and it was probably just designers at that point. It was so early on in Slack's history, walking through Airbnb, handing out Slack socks and asking if they could observe people using the product. So that absolutely was something that was done regularly.
So assuming we care about kind of the richness of insights, I think the first thing I'm wondering is, do you I don't think you have the historical context of Slack, but I imagine some of the researchers or people on the team do. Do they think the richness of the insights is any different? Was it affected by not being able to do the in-person richness? And assuming you care about that richness, but maybe you don't necessarily, what does that mean? And how can we kind of keep up that level of richness? Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And I don't know. And this, I think, alludes to what we had spoken a little bit about last season on your show, which was, you miss out on all these subtleties of in-person interaction and physical environment and all of these cues when you do remote research. But I have to say, if we're missing out on a lot of stuff, it's not immediately obvious to me what that stuff is. I look at the work that was produced in the previous world and with in-person methods, and I look at the work that's being produced now, and I don't see a huge delta in terms of the quality, in terms of the focus and the impact that it can have on making something better. So I don't know. I think if there's anything, and I think that's one way in which I've been I don't know, influenced by this whole experience, is that I've been disabused of some of those notions and some of those things that I was so precious about when it comes to doing in-person work. I just don't think maybe they turned out to be as important as maybe we thought they were.
On next week's post on my new newsletter at uxpress.com, Matt will be a guest writer writing about how in-person research is dead.
And this is news to me for everybody watching. This is how I'm being informed. But
when you want to have impact in your writing, you have to say something is dead. So
this is true. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
But it makes you wonder, if you're not going to be authorizing any research trips once business travel becomes available again, what does that mean about in-person research? And it's interesting to me that the value of the previously done in-person research isn't that obvious to you, just kind of looking at it. That's an interesting point, and one has to wonder whether it's going to resume or not.
Yeah, and another interesting thing to think about is that I think a lot of the things that were valuable about doing in-person research were the the sort of things that are adjacent to the substance of the research itself, like getting that focused alone time with your team, building up relationships, having people's time and focused attention to do like live synthesis of what you're learning as you go. And I think we're all getting to a point where we know how to work around those things that were hard to get in the in-person work environment, right? Like I think we are all accommodating our work styles such that like it's just not a problem to get that time now. Like we know how to do it, and everyone is in the same place. They're on your company's digital communication platform, whatever it happens to be. So yeah, I think when we get back to a post-pandemic world, fingers crossed, knock on wood, et cetera, yeah, of course, like in-person research will continue to be a thing. Hard for me to imagine that it will be nearly at the same volume that it used to be.
Yeah. I was also thinking about career frameworks. So just to clarify, I know that I have a career framework, and by that I mean a simple framework which guides me in terms of where I should go next if I wanted to go anywhere next. What's important to me in a company that I may choose to work for. Yeah. And I was wondering, with remote work kind of completely opening up in many cases, and probably a lot of people looking for new opportunities in the new year, or maybe they've already found them. Do you think, I mean, has your career framework changed at all? Or if you were to advise early career researchers or people transitioning into research, do you think there's anything that is more important to place focus on now than it was before, when it comes to the company you might go and work for, the people who you might work with, your manager, the work style, the work environment, etc.?
I think more so than any of those things, which is like, career growth and like career trajectory stuff. I would think more about like, how is being an effective researcher and being a great researcher changing, given all the broader changes in the world? And I think some of the barriers that used to be up for researchers, might still be there a little bit, but are largely gone in many respects. I think that getting a seat at the table, that old chestnut, and getting into meetings where you feel like you could add value, or where you would get a lot of valuable context. Those things seem to be less of an issue now, that joining a meeting is as easy as clicking a Zoom link, and as many, a meeting might as well have 2,000 people in it, and with all them on mute and listening and getting context, right? Instead of crowding a physical space and crowding a physical room, which I think has a real effect on people feeling like they can be productive and focused. I think that dynamic is really different, and I think there are things like that make injecting yourself into the process and into your team's efforts at collaboration a little easier. So I would think about things like, okay, what gives me energy? Like what do I love about this job and about this as a career? And what do I think are the things that are really that really fill me with excitement when I get out of bed in the morning? And how can I do those in a new way? Like I think researchers, because they're in this purely like knowledge generating role, they, more than other functions, probably have an incentive now to double down on like video production skills, for example. Like how can you make a really amazing, pithy readout of your latest findings? Can you TikTokify your results, right? I don't know. Like I'm sort of spitballing here, but I think there are all sorts of cool opportunities that people have now to share their work and to have a captive audience for it that they didn't really have in the past. And like I said, I think it's easier to spread yourself across a bunch of different teams and meetings and contexts, and to gather information a lot more easily. Maybe that's something that's culturally unique to Slack, but that's something that I've experienced. That getting the information about what different people are working on is easier than I've seen it be in other places.
Yeah. We've started watching. We're very late, I know, but my wife and I have started watching Marie Kondo here and there. Have you ever seen any?
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
So she's a fascinating woman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, as she talks about things that spark joy, right? That's her thing.
Yeah.
And I talked earlier about how 2020 was a rather joyless year. I'm wondering what, as a research manager, just as a professional, what energizes you these days? What helps you focus at work as we start this year? What kind of habits have you started developing that have been helpful to you, that might be helpful to anyone who might watch this now or in the future?
Habits in terms of like how I do research work?
No,
Or just more
anything.
general?
Personal, generally, otherwise.
I have been reading poetry. That helps. I think that is also a reflection of my the stage of life I am in. You may be able to relate to this, but
I'm
indulging.
not that old, Matt. I mean, I'm old. I'm not that old,
But indulging in like a novel or a book is just like not in the question. Not happening these days. Like with 2 young kids and like the stress of the world, and oh man, forget about it. But like you need that artistic jolt. I find that poetry gives me that in digestible doses. And also just like trying to mediate or regulate my use of Twitter and news generally, I think has been an ongoing journey, but also very important for me to feel like I have a good sense of balance in my life. In terms of how I do my work, I think the team, so Christina Janzer runs the research and analytics organization at Slack, and she's amazing in so many ways, but she's very process centric, and that I'm not a process person, but I've gained so much value from her structured approach to looking at the world in her work, and I have gained so much value from applying and borrowing parts of that approach to my day-to-day. So, we have a very regular, predictable cadence of how we plan and execute our work on the team, which still like provides for a level of nimbleness and flexibility, but it really does help you plan, help you be more effective, and also be more thoughtful and strategic about how you communicate about the work coming out of the team. So we have all sorts of interesting new types of deliverables that we're putting together that are all going to be sort of coming out at a predictable clip. And that feels comforting in a way, knowing what your quarter and then your year is going to look like in terms of the team's output and what you need to plan for, and I don't know, that has been very new for me, but also really, really helpful.
That's great. I'll go the other way around. I'll start with the professional and then move into the personal. On the professional end, I really have always believed, and believe even more strongly now, that to teach is to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and to write is to ponder and reflect. And 2020 was a year without much clarity for me, I think, and it was really kind of just tough to focus, and still is to a certain extent. But by having conversations like this, by writing down my thoughts, by doing mentorship and other such things, it's enabled me to just reflect on everything we do at work, and on my research practice, and on the team, and what's best to do. And we're also fortunate that there's always just so much to learn, I think, in our field, and so much still changing. So for me, that's huge and incredibly beneficial for kind of just day-to-day work.
Totally.
And what sparks joy otherwise, you are clearly a much more sophisticated individual than I am. You mentioned TikTok earlier. I am absolutely addicted to TikTok. I am in the TikTok over 30s groups, and dads of TikTok and so forth. Their algorithm is so good. It has just tailored the perfect silly experience for me, which mostly includes steak TikTok. So forgive me, vegans and vegetarians, but I do like my steak. So I'm definitely, I see a lot of like steak TikTok stuff, parenting TikTok, and like things that children do, car related TikTok, and like corporate tech jokes TikTok. So
that's great. I mean, I've managed to avoid getting sucked into the vortex of TikTok, but my TikTok habit is that my wife will sit me down and make me watch the 3 or 4 greatest hits from her scrolling that day, which is just, it's perfect for me. And I love it. I have to say, like, I'm sure like every other social platform, it has its issues, but there is a levity and a creativity and a joy on TikTok that I think is actually really refreshing, There
is.
Yeah.
Do you collect things that inspire you in any way using, I don't know, platforms like Pocket or some task manager or list or something? Do you do that?
No, I don't. I used to be a really religious user of this product, Instapaper, which maybe or maybe not is still around.
Yeah.
And you think it is? Yeah, I don't know. But it was the precursor to Pocket, I think. But I used to just like make a weekly reading list and sit down with a pot of coffee and go through it every Sunday. But having kids blows that type of thing up out of your life, and I just don't have that. I think that's sort of like, and I think finding ways to like collect things that inspire you and focus on them in like pockets of time is such an important thing to do. But man, this year I'm just going to go ahead and chalk that one up to the madness of the year we had, but not really something I do anymore.
I would first of all, I would recommend to people that you find some way to just collect random inspirations and thoughts. I use a Pocket for all of the digital inspirations I find, and it's really, really helpful. I was wondering if you're starting out this year with anything that inspired you recently, whether it's in the context of research or something even broader. But have you seen anything inspiring lately that kind of gets you excited about our work in the coming year?
Thinking about the work side of things, we're going into 2021 with a very different mindset, I feel, than we entered remote work in 2020, like the forced reality of remote work. And we're going into 2021 knowing largely like what our working life will look like, right? And I think that's really empowering in a lot of ways. And the way we're dealing with that as researchers is we are doubling down on automation and like moving as quickly as we can to fulfill as many research requests as we can. We had much more of like a filtration point of view and like a guardians at the gate sort of approach in months past. We've decided to say like, what would happen if we just said yes to everything, and weren't so protective of the things like timelines or the work being incredibly rigorous. Like let's just try saying yes and see what happens. So our research operations lead, a guy named Joey Encarnacion, is who is brilliant at thinking about process, and he's been doing a lot of work into sort of the overall research workflow and how we can take in requests from all over the company, and on the back end as a team really quickly push these things out to an appropriate channel, which is not to say like a Slack channel, but like an appropriate solution, whether that is, hey, like let's put a contractor on this thing, let's put this thing through an unmoderated test, let's put this thing through a real quick survey approach. And it's going really well so far. I have to say, like, I think once we build up that muscle, it may fundamentally change the way we approach our work. I think it might mean that that we're a lot more agile, a lot more responsive to how we work with our partners, and that's been really energizing, actually, and fun to dive into.
I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about that process. I just wonder kind of what's contributed to its success. I'm trying to kind of envision the key components of that process. I think saying yes is easy.
Yeah.
But one of the pieces of feedback I know I've received previously is that I just don't say no enough, and that I need to know when I should say no and when I should say yes. So I think it would be interesting to hear a little bit more about that system you started building and how. But I'm not sure if there's anything you can really add beyond what you shared.
And the details I would share is that we have a Slack channel with a custom workflow built into it, where people can go to submit a request, and that will funnel a form to the operations team where we quickly like swarm on it. We spin up a new project channel. We do that in a very transparent way. We post it as a comment on sort of the post in the top of the funnel channel. And we say, so anyone who's following along in that channel can see, okay, they spun up a new project channel. I'm going to go in there and see the discussion. How did this resolve? And in that channel, we'll say, hey, stakeholder, thanks for making this request. Based on what we see, this is and based on what we have in our menu, our research menu, this is the dish that best will, whet your appetite. And we just try to turn these things. We're also leaning heavily into so usertesting.com has this new feature called Product Insights, which is basically like unmoderated testing with guardrails for partners to use. So I think they built it with like PMs and designers in mind, but they tried to create a lot of templates and an approach where your stakeholders who aren't well versed in doing research well can only screw it up a certain amount.
Yeah.
And we're leaning heavily on that as one way that we're going to try to provide people with stuff with a really, really quick turnaround.
Nice. That's really interesting. I'm sure people who watch this might try something similar out.
Yeah.
Question from Anna. I wonder how much detail you can get into. I'll put it up here. She's asking about, first of all, it's our pleasure coming back. Apparently, Matt is saying yes to everything, so I can ask him to come back again and he'll never say no. Are there any new or unexpected research questions that the Slack team has discovered during this sustained work from home situation. So I'm not sure you can touch upon like literally specific questions, but maybe there's
Yeah.
an interesting theme or something that you can share about things that you've discovered recently.
Yeah, you're right. I can't go into sort of like the specifics of anything, but I would say that like most any other company out there, we're actively trying to understand the ways in which the major seismic shifts of the world are impacting people's use of the software we build. Right. I think every well, there are probably a few exceptions to this, but most research teams out there are doing this on the fly as well, and I would just say that we're trying to be conscious of the fact that this is not something that you study like once, like that you do, 12 user interviews about and then you move on. But this is something that you have to keep a finger on the pulse about and study how it changes and evolves over time, because it really is such a fundamental shift. That obviously is particularly salient for Slack as a product. But I imagine, people at Wealthfront have been thinking a lot about this stuff. I don't think it's exclusive just to us.
Yeah, I think the use of Wealthfront hasn't and shouldn't have been, as affected by everything that happened as much as Slack probably has, given what Slack does and what Wealthfront does.
Sure.
But yeah, that makes sense. And thanks, Anna, for your question. Sorry, we can't go into more detail, but we, for obvious reasons, can't talk too much about the specifics of our work. By the way, I mean, that does sound like, an important undertaking. So probably, talking to 5 people isn't enough, but maybe 10, like 5 times 2, right? Like, because 5 is usually plenty, Matt, plenty. 5 people, like, really. So 10? I mean, 5 times 2? Crazy. Such a sarcastic bastard.
Snark, daddy snark.
Daddy snark. I want to ask you one more thing, which I think we could all be better at. I think I would want this year, in which we are kind of starting over in many ways, to make the future happen rather than let it happen to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And just like pretty much everyone else, I'm thinking about goal setting, personal goals, professional goals, and how to end this year in a much better way than the last one ended. What do you think? Like, have you, in your career and your personal life, discovered some crazy good ways to not let the future just happen to you, to set goals that actually work, that are reasonable and realistic?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to the conversation about process, and it's easy to overdo it on process, and it's always such a scary word, I think, to a lot of people. But adding that degree of structure into how you plan your time can really be so helpful, and also just in terms of how we're managing like personal goals and personal growth as a group and as a research team. We had time when we all sort of talked about things that we wanted to be better at, not specific to the practice of research. And like as an example of the types of things that people were coming up with, my goal was I want to make sure I'm carving out at least 20 minutes in the day when I can sit outside and like read a magazine, like to just take time away from staring at a glowing rectangle of one form or another. And we're trying our best to keep each other honest about developing those habits. I think this is a weird enough time that sort of blending of personal goals and professional goals is oddly appropriate and necessary. Otherwise, we're all just going to fizzle out. And that would be no good for anyone. How about you?
I mean, I can just say that times are changing, and we've decided to change with them. And one of the other announcements, I guess, I can make is that these next few months, it's now our in our 5th year in Silicon Valley, will be our last, at least for the time being, in the Bay Area. We are moving to what is apparently known as the Silicon Swamp, hashtag Miami Tech. So that's
You're
a
one
thing.
of those.
We're one of those. We're moving to the Fort Lauderdale area. How do Americans say Fort Lauderdale? Lauderdale? How do you
Lauderdale, yeah.
Lauderdale.
Lauderdale.
And we're gonna try that out. And as part of that, I will be working remotely as opposed to in the office. So big changes, but I think that, for anyone feeling that times have changed for them, maybe think about how you want to change with the times. And for us, that was the change we wanted to make. And thank you for your support.
South Florida is that place is gonna be an adventure. There's no place like it.
Yes, I'm going to be working from the pool. There's like this pool floaty you can buy.
And I can't wait to see season 3 of UX Quest with you live from the pool. Yeah,
it's going to be marvelous. Before we end, Christopher is asking about favorite ways of remotely communicating user research.
Yeah. For one thing that a lot of the researchers on the Slack team are getting in the habit of doing is for every deliverable they produce, they're doing a quick self readout where you just open up Zoom and start a meeting where it's just you, and you share your screen and you present to yourself, and you run through your findings in a quick conversational way. And then you download the video, and you've got this thing that people can time shift to fit into their day. You can drop it into Slack channels, and it's engaging in a way that thumbing through a deck or some Google Slides is not. And you can highlight the things and emphasize the things that you think are really important in a way that's hard to do in a written way. So yeah, we're using a lot of asynchronous video, which is actually really, really fun.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Matt, let's start ending there. Cool. I so much appreciate your time. Just a reminder, Matt is one of my favorite people in tech. We used to be colleagues, we're friends. I'm so happy that that's the case. He's the director of product research at Slack, and a marvelous individual, yet humble about it. Do you want to give any shout outs, throw out anything? Are you hiring? Is there anything you want people to know that's going on, or anything you want to promote before we finish here?
I'm sure there is, and I'm feeling very unprepared. We've been working a lot with Michelle Ronson at Curiosity Tank. She's fantastic. Yeah. I would recommend Michelle to anyone. Gosh, what else?
I'll say while you think that Michelle was also a guest on UXR Conversations season 1.
Yes, she was.
And she's marvelous. Few people contribute more to the UX research community than she does. So shout out to her. Anything else?
We have a member of our team who's going to be joining a cohort of humanity-centered, Vivian Castillo's workshop, I guess, for lack of a better term. Very excited to hear how that goes. Gosh, I'm about a million other things that I'm sure I'm forgetting.
Well, I will give you other opportunities in the future if you ever need them. Thank you so very much for being here. There's another question here for you from Casey. Thanks for watching, Casey, but we won't get to that today. I'll make sure to connect you if you'd like to chat with Matt. And on my end, again, this is a special day for multiple reasons. I'm so excited to be having these UXR conversations again. Many more to come, just casual conversations about research and management and our practice and the the incredible realm of UX and UX research and so much more. So tune in. I'll be announcing these things as we go. And I will continue to do some more YouTube things, mostly on a monthly level. But other than that, today is the day. I just went for it. I sent it out live. I shipped it. uxquest.com, a weekly newsletter with both free and paid plans, is out. The paid plans are currently discounted until the end of January. It's $8 a month or $75 for the entire year of weekly UX research related content, which you can expense if you have a learning and development budget. You can cancel anytime if you don't like what I have to say. And of course, I'm here to support anyone who cannot afford that cost. Simply contact me via email or other channels. I really appreciate everyone who just watched live or will watch in the future. This video will be up on YouTube by tomorrow. Until the next UXR conversation, thanks everyone. A special thank you to Matt for saying yes, apparently, to anything that people ask you. Anyone needs anything, call Matt up on the phone.
That's right. Thanks for having me, Noam. This was fun.
My pleasure. Cheers to everyone and have a lovely weekend and an incredible 2021. May it be so much better than 2020 for everyone in this crazy, weird world.
Indeed. Hear, hear.
Bye for now.